Welcome to the Big Cat Lounge podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's guest comes all the way from Johannesburg in South Africa. She's the founder of Hello Coach K and believes in using a purpose-driven approach to equip students and young professionals with the tools, techniques, and information that will not only build and establish their personal brand, but their careers as well. We welcome Quincy Molope to the Big Cat Lounge podcast.
How are you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, so I started getting more active on LinkedIn recently, just because I was just like, I need to expand my network and just try and learn more about what's out there. Because sometimes you're just segmented in your own section, and you only know like people of the same maybe like background. But I just wanted to like expand my network, and so I connected with you and. Me and my co-host Chad, we interview guests from all over the world now, and we're just trying to hear their story and have this as a platform for those to just speak what's on their mind in a casual lounge setting.
I like that though. So I'm always up for podcast interviews. I feel they really do put me more at ease than video interviews anyway. So yeah. I like the back and forth of the podcast.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. So you recently founded your company. Is that about 4 years ago or so, or how long?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. So sorry, just to understand your process. Then, so for this interview, you're going to use the audio, right?
Yeah, just the audio. We'll just be using the audio. Yeah.
Okay. So I just need to bear that in mind before I jump in and cut you.
Today's sponsor is Anchor FM app. Go download the free Anchor app today to get started. You can find it at your Play Store or App Store. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it distributes everything for you so it can be heard on multiple platforms such as Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, and many more. This is what I'm currently using right now to edit and record my podcast, and you can do so from your phone or computer. And the tools are really easy to use to help document the Big Cat Lounge journey. So what are you waiting for? Go today and download it.
Asking just to learn more about your background and how you created your company.
So my company was actually in existence, you're right, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I started it while I was still working in corporate. So I've been working in corporate for almost 10 years, and my specialization was project management, business analysis. So I had that kind of world, very analytical, very critical thinking.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, it not only did it start to get boring, but I think there was a little bit of a disalignment between me actually enjoying what I'm doing and my passion and my purpose. So while I was in corporate, I started Hello Coach K. It wasn't called Hello Coach K then, it was actually called K Management. And I was doing that on the side as my passion project. But last year, I think there was a real burning desire to really make the switch. And I think that just came out from feeling stuck in corporate. I felt like I wasn't where I was meant to be. I felt like I was not also given the room to be who I needed to be within that space. So I don't know if you have a corporate background or not, but it's very bureaucratical. There's a lot of red tape. There's still so many levels before you get to really effect change.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that process was just taking a little bit too long for me. I felt constrained. So we started making the plan. And I think that's also what people don't necessarily understand. It wasn't just like an overnight decision to rebrand as Hello Coach K to do this full time. It was about an 8-month plan where I decided, okay, and I was actually pregnant with my daughter then. So I was on maternity, I was pregnant with my daughter. And on maternity leave, I actually made the decision that I'm actually going to quit corporate and I'm going to do this full time. So there was a lot of planning that went into it. And we officially launched this year, March, as Hello Coach K.
Wow.
And that process was incredible because just as we launched, then my country sort of got hit with COVID-19 and our country went into lockdown. Yeah. And then it almost felt like, what are you doing? You just launched a company that is very face-to-face intensive, that is all about people trying to prepare themselves and get ready for their careers, get ready for work, and the economy shut down. So it seemed a little bit crazy, but we've had an incredible reinvention or pivot, if you want to call it that, of the organization. So everything is online now, and that's how our business has been running ever since.
That is awesome. Yeah, because you still have to have that interaction, you know, because your whole business relies on that personal, you know, interaction with one another. So you can get to know, you know, how they're feeling, what they're thinking. So yeah, it's great that you guys were able to, you know, balance and really switch as quick as you were able to, because it's not easy to switch and to go online. Like for me, I work for a big corporation, a big bank, Wells Fargo, and it's difficult because now, you know, you have to work remotely. And as a bank, you always had to go into the office, you know, go in with your suit. That's like the mentality. No matter what, you always had to do that. And now you have to switch, and you have to, you know, really learn how to adapt with the times. And now everyone's shifting. So I'm really happy that you guys were able to position yourself to really make the biggest impact.
And I think it was really tough for me as well, because that meant I had to upskill. So I was never ready. I think for us to go fully online in terms of business plan, that was like, we're talking 12 months to 72 months from now was the ideal, right? Because we thought if our business, if we continue on the projectile that we are expecting to, then that would be the growth. But COVID-19 really forced us to bed down and to go back to the drawing board and to rethink everything, and to really decide how do we want to reach our audience now. And that expanded everything, but that also sort of required upskilling for me. I'm not a tech bunny.
Yeah.
It required a lot of upskilling. I had to understand how certain things functioned. I mean, I've never been on Zoom more in my entire life, like I have been during this period, and understanding a lot more about technology and capacitating my business to allow for smooth interactions with my customers as well. And in such a way, like you mentioned, because it's very personal, you know, it's still that screen feel, but we've tried really hard to keep it personal and to really, you know, make our clients know and feel like they're given the attention that they need in terms of the service that we provide. So it's been interesting.
And so, you know, if you're trying to learn more about your services, how would you go about doing that?
So we have a website. We have our website is www.hellocoachk.com. And then we have our Facebook page as well, which is at HelloCoachK. And that's also our Instagram handle. And then they can also follow me on LinkedIn. My personal profile is Quincy Molope. I'll give that information to you as well. And our LinkedIn business page is at HelloCoachK.
Okay. And so, like, if I wanted to do a personal session with you or with your team, how would that work? Just so I could prepare myself, because I know a lot of people are afraid to take that next step. Like, you know, they're always able to consume information and see a video, but then it's just, are they willing to make that next step and that next leap?
Oh, I understand. So I think because I come from a process background, I really put a lot of work into embedding processes so that everybody who comes on board really feels like they have the same customer experience. So we have an international WhatsApp number, which is the preferred way for us to make contact or to receive contact. Because then it's instant, right? We have our team ready who can instantly respond to you and your needs. So because everybody's story is different, our CLOs are well trained to, they're very empathetic, which is one thing that we needed. So they're there to listen to you. So you tell your story, you WhatsApp us, you tell us your story in terms of what you're looking for, what kind of career move are you making? Are you looking to change industries? Are you looking to stay in your current industry, but maybe just, you know, work on getting that promotion that you've been working for? Or are you just generally confused about your career path and you need that kind of guidance? So that's usually the first type of first point contact that we receive. And then we talk you through it and we guide you through the process in terms of what services we have to offer, whether a one-on-one session is the best thing for you. Usually a CV construction is what we do first. So we request that they submit their CVs through to us via email at info@hellocoachk.com. We assess their CV for free. So I personally assess everyone's CV. We do that for free and we send them through the assessment. And then from that assessment, then we look at what is actually required. Is your CV in fact even the issue for you not you know, hearing back from your job person, not booking that interview? And we take it from there. And a lot of the time as well, we get general people who are just really frustrated with the interview process itself. So, you know, you can send out hundreds and hundreds of CVs, and if you get that first call interview, it's great. But if you're not making that first impression mark in your interview, you're not getting called for the second round. So a lot of our customers are also here trying to push through that first round interview to give themselves a better chance to make it through the preceding rounds of the interview process. So we do a lot of interview coaching as well. But I think for anybody listening to this, trying to figure out, so how do I start, how do I get in contact, I would absolutely say, please send us a WhatsApp message. It's so much easier for everyone involved. Do you need that number now as well?
Oh, sure. Why not? Yeah.
Oh, okay. So our country code is +27, and the number is 061 406 6969.
And your company, it's not just limited to South Africa, right? I mean, it's available for everyone, right, throughout the world. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So I think that's actually what COVID-19 did for us. It forced us to go global. So we've had customers in the US, Australia, New Zealand, Zambia, Botswana, Lesotho, Swaziland, and Nigeria.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we've had, and then obviously across South Africa as well. So because we're fully online, it really does help us with reach and helping anyone who really comes through to us for assistance.
Exactly. Yeah, we're so lucky right now that we're able to connect, and really, like, our podcast is achieving big cat international status. We were able to now, capture your story from South Africa. It's my first time ever interacting with anyone from South Africa, so I'm really blessed to have that opportunity.
Oh, and I'm really blessed and honored for the invitation to actually speak on your podcast as well. I'm really proud of the strides you guys have made too. I've been following you guys as well, and I love your sessions, and I love what you guys are aiming to do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's really just just our story, Chad and I and our friends, and just highlighting their background, and just providing them an opportunity to speak.
And I love that.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying I love that because I think that's the point, right? Sharing our stories really does give you an understanding of how similar we all are. I think that's been the joy of LinkedIn as well. Like you mentioned, we met on LinkedIn, and that's really opened up our networks more than ever before. And we're interacting with people from across the world, different cultures, different backgrounds, but ultimately realizing that we are all living the same human experience, and we're all chasing what I consider joy and what I consider purpose. Above anything else. And if we can do that, if we can help at least cultivate or ignite or initiate somebody really making the leap to live in their purpose, then I think we've done our job in terms of this conversation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and so for me, I guess on a daily basis, I get a lot of people inboxing me on LinkedIn asking for help, and I try to give them as much of an insight as I can, and I tell them that you need to just try and provide value and engage and provide your story, because a lot of the times they're just like asking for help, but I'm like, I need some direction. What type of help do you need? Because you need to really display your value and display what your background is, so I can understand, and so others can be connected with you. Otherwise, I don't know what I can do.
Absolutely, and I think that's the missing link. I mean, we recently just did a series as well on our platform. It was called LinkedIn, The Power of LinkedIn, I think. And it was just a 101 course on LinkedIn, just to say, guys, this is how you actually function on this platform. Yes, LinkedIn is a networking platform, but I think because so many people are finding themselves in situations that they've never been in before, a little bit more desperate to find work, that everybody's sort of bombarding the system with, I need work. And I get the same kind of inboxes as well, where I think we're also forgetting sort of the human aspect of it, to say that the person that you're actually sending a message to is actually a human being on the other end of the line. So you need to actually connect. And we focused on those things to say, when you're sending those cold messages as well, what does that message actually need to entail? It needs, like you mentioned, your background story. If you're asking me for help, really specify what kind of help you think you need, so that we can, work towards it and funnel that kind of help your way with, also without wasting too much time. I think if I'm just talking about my inbox, if I'm thinking about my inbox today, how many messages I still have to get to, it's in the hundreds. And it helps if we don't still have to go through the back and forth of, hi, how are you? I'm fine, thanks, how are you? It's almost like you need to make sure that the first message you send makes the impact. It tells your story. Mm-hmm. You identify immediately what kind of assistance you're looking for, and you also make mention that you've seen the content. You know that I specialize in this area. It also doesn't help if you're still messaging me and asking me, what do I do for a living, right? Yeah. Then I feel like the conversation is also, you've wasted that opportunity. And I think that's what LinkedIn is all about. It's really grasping the opportunities and networking effectively.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. And a lot of the times, they could just look at the about section or just do that initial research, which is already, you know, you put in the hard work to write that description about yourself. So someone should be able to read it.
Exactly.
Sometimes I'm frustrated. I'm like, you shouldn't ask this a question that if you just did one click and did a quick read, you would have understood that, you know, I represent this right now.
Absolutely, and people really underestimate that. That always fails me. I always think there's so much information on LinkedIn before you even get to my inbox or my message button. There's so much information for you to read. Just do a little bit of the groundwork. It takes 2 minutes to read a LinkedIn profile. Find ways and identify ways that you can identify. I mean, I think about even people who do B2B business, right? I get a lot of inboxes as well saying, I run a digital agency and I think my business can transform your business. But they don't actually make a pitch. So you can tell that the message you've received is a generic message that they most likely send to everybody. But the ones that I find impactful are the ones that say, listen, Quincy, I've actually gone through your profile. I see the kind of work you go through. I've gone through your website and I believe we can add value in this way. That's the kind of thinking that you need to bring to the LinkedIn platform. I think everybody's busy. Everybody's online. We're all on our phones. We're all on the internet at the moment. And you need to make sure that that first impression is really hitting that need mark, right? So if you're saying this is the service I provide or the product that I have, make sure that you're making it tailored for the person that you're talking to.
Yeah. And so your company's done quite a lot. You do one-on-one private sessions, you do workshop group sessions, as well as corporate events. So just highlight some of the corporate events that you've done throughout your time.
So the corporate events, actually, we are busy now structuring. So we focused the past 4 years and I guess this year doing workshops at colleges and community centers. So the corporate leg of what we do is finally hitting off the ground actually as we speak. We are developing internship programs and learnership programs for corporates. And all of those entail things from soft skills to interviewing skills to workplace readiness. We are developing these programs to make sure that, you know, the interns that are coming into the organization as well, because that's where the need is, are ready to tackle. I mean, you and I have been in corporate and we know what it's like when you jump into corporate without any kind of support, without any kind of mentoring. So we're trying to close that gap for them in structuring these programs that are tailored as well for the organization. So we're trying to shorten that learning curve, as you might say it, for corporate.
Yeah. And so for those that are trying to do a shift in their career, and maybe if they wanted to go through the career mentoring program, how do they go about doing that? Is there a limit to the amount of candidates that you have?
Yes, absolutely. So this year we've actually reached our limit. We currently have capacity because the program itself is so intensive, and we really try to give every sort of student or mentee that goes through the program the attention that they require, because it's a lot. We start all the way from CV construction to communication skills to presentation, but also to really guiding them through their job hunt and being there for the little questions. I mean, it's an entire program thing. So the current capacity is 3 mentees per annum, and we have reached that capacity for this year. So the program will open up again next year, and we do it in 6-month runs. So we take you on and we mentor you for the next 6 months. And what I like about the mentoring program as well, it really allows me to really dig deep into my network and find professionals as well who specialize. So we've had mentees in tourism, in finance and investments, and also in the sciences. So the chem lab, that entire space. And we're able to really connect them with professionals in their specific spaces, who can also sort of give them practical insights on what it's like to be in that space and open their network as well to them, because that's the point of a mentoring program too. So how they can actually apply for that is also just sending us an email. So it's sending a motivational letter in terms of why you feel you need mentoring for whatever period, 6 months, and what you want to gain from the mentoring process. So we really do try to take on people who are passionate about what they're doing, seem to have direction, and that have relatable stories, and where we can actually add value and help them in that case. So we don't really take everyone, but yes, capacity is 3.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. I guess I had a quick question. What would you tell your 18-year-old self if you could say, now that you've learned so much?
I think the one thing for me is I live without regret. So that doesn't necessarily mean that I've been like my life has been easy and I haven't been through trauma or anything like that. But I try to own the decisions I make. And I've always said that since I was young, that whatever life I'm living, it's going to be based on the decisions I've made, so that I don't regret and I don't feel like I've let myself down in any way. So if I make a mistake, it's a lesson learned. It's not necessarily a mistake for me. So I just tell my 18-year-old self to trust the process. I wouldn't change anything I did. I think my stint through corporate was required. It was necessary for me to have the insights that I have now to do what I do. I think every hurdle I've been through was necessary. I think everyone I lost along the way was necessary. So I would just tell my 18-year-old self to stick with the process. I think when you're 18 and still going through it, it just seems like it's never ending. It seems like the blows don't stop coming, right? But I would tell her to just stick through the process and that it eventually actually does all kind of come together and make sense. Mm-hmm. That bigger picture, that vision that you had makes a lot of sense. So stick to your gut. And keep going, child. Keep going.
Yes. Don't lose momentum. That's the thing. We must not lose momentum. Right now,
absolutely,
it's very challenging. I think all over the world, just with education, just with being able to balance either virtual or in person. I think in the U.S. they're still trying to figure out what they want to do because of the situation at hand. How is your country handling it? Have they figured out what they want to do with? I guess not really.
No, so not really. I think there's been a lot of frustration in my country as well with the lockdown and economy shutting down. I mean, we have some of the highest inequality in our country as well between rich and poor. So it affected everybody across the spectrum. So nobody was saved from the impact of the economy shutting down, especially not for 5 months.
Yeah.
So in the small to medium-sized enterprise space, which I'm in as well, I've seen a lot of businesses really go under. There's a lot of debt, and it just doesn't feel like anybody was ready to really handle the magnitude of what a lockdown for this long actually meant. And I think it was a lot for our government to take on. There was a lot of decisions that they needed to make. But I think, at the end of the day, politicians will always play a political game. And it always seems like the people were the last in mind for the solutions that they put on the table. So it's been very frustrating. But the one thing I do like about this, because I come from corporate, is it's forced organizations who had a very old mentality culture, to really understand that you can actually work from home and be effective and still be productive. So managers who used to have that mentality of bums in seats are now seeing that is no longer a valid response. Mm-hmm. Right? That we can be creative in the way we produce our output. And I've enjoyed seeing that shift in mentality. I've enjoyed seeing that shift in the way normal business is done. And I'm hoping that this unconventional way of doing business will become the new conventional. I mean, we're all different human beings. Like, I'm a mom, for instance, and that was one of the most frustrating things for me working in corporate, is that you just didn't have the flexibility to be a mom and be a professional at the same time. Because I'm the one who gets the call when the kids are sick at school, right? They call me, I'm the mom.
Yeah.
So to still have to go through so many processes and to almost beg to leave work just to run out and go get your kids and make sure that your kid is okay. I think this time has really shown that we need more of that in our businesses. We need more empathy. We need more human consideration, mm-hmm. and understanding that we are more than just a number.
Yeah, it's very difficult for everyone during this time. And one of the things is just it's mind-boggling to me. It's just, even in the US, I think maybe even in South Africa, is just the lack of financial literacy with just even in the education system, or just maybe like your parents, or just like around us. Like it's not really taught. It's not really something that people just like have conversations on. It's something that I feel like needs to be occurring more often, because that's the thing. We all live to retirement age or X amount of time, so we need to really think about this and have a foundation early on in our life.
I agree completely. And I think that's what caught us all off guard, right? How many of us actually had savings before COVID-19 hit? How many of us even knew how to effectively save or stretch the dollar? I think, like the saying goes, right? So I think that is really, really important. You're right.
Yeah. How's your country doing? I don't know too much about it. Like you're in Johannesburg. So for those that don't know, where in South Africa is that located?
So Johannesburg is more towards the north, or the province that we're in, Gauteng, is more towards the north. I think everybody would know it more with the Nelson Mandela story, because we are where he was, where he lived, not necessarily where he was born, but where he then set root and where his house is, and you know where that memorial, I think that's the right English word, where that memorial is. We're in Johannesburg. So the landscape of ours is we are the biggest metropolitan in South Africa. And we have millions of people who come here and work and sort of are the engine for the economy. And I think that's why we were able to see so much of the impact where I live, because so many people were already here. But I think, again, with the way our country is so structured, and the fact that a lot of the working class are living in places called townships, which is almost like the equivalent of I don't know, is this the right word? I'm not sure. You'll tell me culturally if this is appropriate, but like of your hoods, right?
Yeah.
So we're below the poverty line, that's normally where people are living. So because our blue collar workers were all there, they got impacted the most during COVID-19 and the inability to move freely and to get to their jobs. So you almost saw as well this battle of the haves and the have-nots and the have-nots. So the haves really were impacted for the first time the same way the have-nots were. And it sparked all of this debate in terms of not only, it was like a sobering moment to say, how actually is our country run? Is it effective? Are we being governed right? Are the mechanisms in place actually there to protect us and to support us during times like this? The little thing of freedom of movement, that caused a massive sort of discussion and conversation online. Alcohol being banned was a massive discussion, again, all over the place and across the board. And because as well, all of these businesses and organizations that were run for generations, this is legacy money, family money we're talking about, that were now also finally being impacted. It was almost like COVID was an equalizer to say, this is what it actually looks like for all of us to be on the same footing.
Yeah.
This is how hard it actually is for everybody. So the little comfort that you had, your domestic worker, your helper, your nanny who lives in the township and can't come to you, that's real. Taxi fares increased because of COVID-19, and that would usually only impact poor people. Nobody would bat an eye if taxi prices went up. But all of a sudden, everybody now is involved in the conversation, because if my nanny can't come to me, I can't work because I'm home with the kids, schools aren't open. So it was like an entire cycle of everybody being impacted by one thing. And I think it will either bring us all together, or it's going to tear us apart even more.
You don't know.
Because of the demographic of our country, because it's still also very racially driven. Stuff is still very racial, stuff is still very raw. So my one friend actually says war is the great equalizer. And it feels like that. It feels like this situation is finally going to reveal that we are actually all human beings, like I said, living this lived experience together.
Yes, we are. We really are. Yeah, and that's the thing. It is bringing a lot of people together, and it's making people really try and communicate more and be more transparent. Because I think before, a lot of people were maybe like just like either hiding or avoiding maybe like confrontation, or just in general, like sometimes in corporate, like you can get away with not necessarily doing a lot of things until an email comes out, or until it's time for you to be accountable. But now when everyone's working from home, you have to have those frequent interactions and those touch points, because otherwise you don't have that face-to-face interaction. So you've lost that now.
Absolutely. And we can't hide anymore, right?
Yeah, you can't.
you can't hide at all. But so what we're also trying to do now with our organization is we've identified, or rather we've always been aware of the gap, right? We've been talking about now the gap in our country between the haves and the have-nots. And there's a real gap in rural South Africa in terms of access to not only education, but access to even interacting and talking to people like you. when I run the workshops, I always ask this question, especially because it's so heavily on interviewing and career planning. Ask the question, what do you fear the most about your interview process? And these attendees always say one thing. That's always the biggest sort of fear that they have, is interacting with white people. And that always breaks my heart, because you are living in one of the biggest metropolitans in our country. You are literally a 20-minute drive from a white community, and your entire life you've never interacted with white people. So then how much so for a kid who's living in rural South Africa, who would take at minimum maybe 4 hours to reach a community where there are other races that they can interact with. And we're trying to close that gap. So that's our big CSI sort of commitment with our organization, to say we want to close that gap between the kid that's sitting in rural South Africa, rural Limpopo, rural Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, Durban, who really doesn't have access and exposure, because that's key. Exposure is key to everything. It changes the way you think. It changes your perspective. It helps you realize that, you know what, that thing that you feared the most isn't that scary at all. So we want to bring our program to those spaces and bring on board professionals who even come from those same areas, to say, you made it out of this area, put back. Let's start a culture of that. We call it Ubuntu in our country, of coming back, that sort of alumni mentality, to say, I want to go back. It's not right that I'm the only one who made it out, right? That can't be the story of my village, that I'm the only one who made it out. So we want to close that gap and say, you actually are very capable. You're very capable of making it to a big university. You're very capable of having your view or your sight of what a professional career is. And it's possible to reach there. You just might need a little bit of help. And that's what we want to do. It's not just about bringing the program to them and talking English to them, which is also a very big deal, by the way. So we are planning on even running like a WhatsApp line with volunteers, where we just get all of these kids on who aren't even exposed to speaking English 24/7, to speak English, to at least give them 15 minutes, 30 minutes at a time on the line with somebody, and speaking English and getting them comfortable with this language that they're going to need when they start the interviewing process, whether that's interviewing for bursaries, whether that's interviewing for work, whatever their need might be at that time. But that's what we're trying to do with the CSI project. So it's a big one. It's a big one. When we were planning it and deciding on what we wanted to do, it almost terrified even us to do it. But it's really in my heart to do, and I hope, I always say, one at a time. If we can reach one professional, one graduate at a time, then we would have done the work that we need to do.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You picked this profession, and you picked this pathway because you're so passionate, and you know that the next day that you get up, you're making that impact, and it's not really work for you, because you're giving back instantly to the community. So that's cool that you were able to achieve that.
That's actually what I enjoy the most. So I've never been this is the most exhausted I've been in my entire life. I'm not going to lie to you. Yeah. I think I absolutely underestimated what it takes to actually run your own organization. So I'm going to be very frank about that. My husband and I laugh about it all the time, because I actually thought this might be the time where I'm gonna enjoy my rest period more than when I worked in corporate, but that's not the case. I'm working longer hours than ever before. I'm having to be very careful about what I'm doing, but at the same time, I haven't had this much fun. Yeah. So this is the most fun I've had. Although I'm physically exhausted, I'm not emotionally drained. And I'm enjoying everything I'm doing. Like, I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to get my day started. I'm excited to talk to the new client, to talk to the new person and try to figure out and help them on their path. So I'm really having the best time of my life. I hope you can hear it in my voice as well. It's just been so fantastic.
And then I guess, so did you used to travel a lot with your before this? You did, right? So now you're able to at least be home, with your family and with and spend more time with them too, right? So this is another.
Oh yeah, I live in Johannesburg. I live maybe 35 kilometers. I don't know what that is in miles, but I live 35 kilometers away from where I used to work. But that drive on a normal day, so over a Saturday, for instance, it would normally take me 35 minutes to get to work. On a weekday, it could take anything from an hour to 2 hours to get to the office. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
By the time you get to work through that traffic, your mind is tired. You still need time to recoup and prepare yourself for the day ahead. So absolutely, I'm enjoying being home. I'm enjoying the freedom to own my own time. That's important. That's a big one. And also just the freedom to make decisions and implement them immediately. So it's like I'm making the decision. I'm saying, yes, we're doing this today, or no, we're not doing that today, and then implement it instantly. I don't have to wait for 7 other line managers to make that decision.
That is true. And so how many people do you have to manage? That must be very difficult to manage such a big team and be able to, distribute that information to them. How many people are you able to interact with?
So our team, for me, it's still relatively small. I don't know, you'll tell me, but our team consists of about 5 at the moment. So we have a full-time CLO, and then we have freelance writers as well that we manage, but it's all remote. So we are on, like I said, we're utilizing as much as possible. We're on our CRM system all the time. We're on WhatsApp all the time. We jump on video calls all the time. So it hasn't really been, I don't know, it hasn't really been difficult for me. I don't know whether or not it's because I'm used to working remotely, or what it is, or maybe it's just the caliber of people that we have in the team. But I think everybody's responsible. Everybody knows when they're supposed to be working and when they need to produce work, because we have strict deadlines as well. So it hasn't really been that difficult to manage. I think I'm blessed in that sense, right?
Yeah.
And
the thing is, if you have that open communication with your staff and everyone knows the expectations on a daily basis, there shouldn't be any surprises if someone's, not meeting their workload or not being able to produce results. So that's the thing. As long as you're having that open transparency, everything should be fine. And that's what I tried to do as well with my leadership, because that's the thing. You just have to tell someone and be free with it. Because if you are starting to lie and hide something, then it's on your conscience, and you don't want to have that happen.
Absolutely. No, communication is absolutely key for me. It's one of the things that, like we talk about this, even when we're onboarding. It's, listen, remember, we don't see you. We're not face to face. I'm not a micromanager. I'm not going to micromanage you. You're a grown person. You know how to manage your time. You should be responsible. So you have tasks to do during the day. You know what these are. And you know that if you're stuck, we're here to help. We're here to support you. So it's open communication with our team. And my team also knows that they're not worried about asking me anything. There's no stupid question. I would rather you ask me and then we talk it through, we work the problem through, then make a mistake and then you work on covering it. And then it's almost like a snowball event, right? So open communication kind of resolves all of those issues.
Do you find that you need to schedule one-on-one meetings, or you do? Yeah, I feel like everyone needs to just have a placeholder to make sure.
Yeah, so we try to check in at least once a week on Zoom, just so that also everyone can kind of see each other's faces and know that there's actually people as well. There's other people involved in this project, right? There's other people involved in this big picture. It's not just you sitting in your corner of the world producing your work and then moving on. That there's an actual machine that's functioning and you're a big part of that machine functioning. So it's good. I can't wait until lockdown loosens up a little bit. I think it'll be really nice to kind of bring everybody together and have a lunch or have a dinner or something like that. But until then,
human interaction, but you're still able to with the Zoom, but it's never the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same. We're like toasting glasses via Zoom screens. It's not the same.
Well, thank you so much for taking your time to come on the Big Cat Lounge podcast. If those want to find out more about your story and your company, where can they look?
So they can find us anywhere. I'm always surprised by that question, to be quite honestly. So all our social media handles, all our contact details that I provided you with earlier, I hope you put that on the post as well. And they're more than welcome to follow me personally on LinkedIn. I am an open book. I'm quite accessible. I'm quite approachable.
Okay. Thank you so much again for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I enjoyed this so much. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for having me.
Likewise. Have a good night and have a good week ahead.
Goodbye, Kyle.
Bye-bye.
We are accepting applications if you think you have what it takes to be a big cat and be a guest on the show. Email us at bigcatlounge@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to the Big Cat Lounge podcast. Hope to see you soon.